Nestled on the western edge of Great Britain, Wales is a land of rugged coastlines, misty mountains, and lyrical language. It's a country rich in history, home to more castles per square mile than anywhere else in Europe, and filled with sweeping views straight out of a fantasy film. And yet, despite all that charm, Wales remains sparsely populated compared to its neighbor, England. Covering over 8,000 square miles, about the size of New Jersey, Wales is home to just over 3 million people. That's fewer residents than the city of Los Angeles, despite being more than 16 times larger in size. While Cardiff, Swansea, and Newport form a modest urban cluster in the south, much of Wales is rural and remote. Drive through Snowdonia or the Brecon Beacons, and you can go miles without seeing more than sheep and stone cottages. In these parts, population density drops below 150 people per square mile, far lower than London's 14,000. So why aren't more people calling Wales home? To find out, we'll explore the geography, history, and social shifts that have shaped modern-day Wales. 1. Mountainous and rugged terrain. One of the biggest reasons Wales remains so lightly populated is its terrain. Unlike the flat plains of central England or the fertile lowlands of Europe, much of Wales is covered by a crumpled patchwork of mountains, hills, and deep-cut valleys. The rugged terrain of Snowdonia in the north, the Brecon Beacons in the south, and the Cambrian Mountains in the heart of the country has shaped not just the landscape, but the way people live. Small, scattered villages nestled between ridges with winding roads and narrow lanes connecting them. This geography makes large-scale urban development incredibly difficult. Building anything, roads, railways, factories, even housing, requires expensive earthworks, tunneling, and constant maintenance. Flat land is scarce, and when you do find it, it's often reserved for agriculture or lies within national park boundaries that restrict development. As a result, economic hubs struggle to grow, and infrastructure lags far behind more accessible parts of the UK. The land also limits the kinds of industries that can thrive here. Unlike the industrial heartlands of northern England, Wales's mountainous regions offer little room for sprawling manufacturing or large distribution centers. And while sheep farming has long been a cultural and economic mainstay, it doesn't bring in the kind of population density or job diversity that modern cities rely on. 2. Weather and climate. Wales is famously wet. So wet, in fact, that some towns in the north and west regularly receive over nearly 120 inches of rainfall each year. That's more than double what London gets. Gray skies, drizzle, and long stretches of misty, damp weather are part of daily life. In places like Snowdonia or the Cambrian foothills, weeks can go by without a clear blue sky. For visitors, it can feel moody and romantic. For residents, especially in remote areas, it can feel isolating. This kind of climate has subtle but real effects on population patterns. First, it impacts livability. Seasonal affective disorder linked to low sunlight levels is more common in regions like Wales. Constant rain and cloud cover make outdoor life harder, and harsh weather can wear down infrastructure. Roads crack, landslides block mountain routes, and flooding becomes an almost annual concern in low-lying valleys. Second, it shapes agriculture and development. The excess moisture, while good for lush green landscapes and sheep grazing, limits the variety of crops that can be grown. It also increases maintenance costs for buildings, roads, and utilities, especially in areas that are already difficult to access due to terrain. For many people in the UK, Wales is seen as colder, wetter, and gloomier than the more temperate southeast of England. That image, however romantic it may seem in travel ads, can be a deterrent for those seeking brighter skies and more urban comforts. When young people from Wales leave for university in places like London, Manchester, or Bristol, many don't come back, not just because of jobs, but because of lifestyle. Third, post-industrial decline. For much of the 19th and early 20th centuries, Wales wasn't just part of Britain's economy. It was the furnace at its heart, from the deep mines of Rhondda and Merthyr Tydfil to the steelworks of Port Talbot and Llanwern. South Wales powered factories, warships, railways, and cities across the British Empire. Entire communities sprang up around this industry. Chapels, unions, brass bands, rugby clubs, and working-class pride. In these valleys, identity and economy were one and the same. By the 1970s and 80s, global energy markets had changed. Oil and gas were cheaper, cleaner, and easier to transport. Britain's heavy industry, once the pride of the empire, began to collapse under competition, underinvestment, and shifting politics. The closure of mines during Margaret Thatcher's government ignited protests, strikes, and deep social divides. But the outcome was the same. Without the industry that had once bound them together, many Welsh communities lost their purpose. Young people moved to Cardiff, London, or abroad in search of work, draining these towns of their future. What remained were aging populations, high unemployment, and a generation raised in the shadow of lost prosperity. Schools closed, town centers emptied. The valleys, once thunderous with industry, became quiet. Fourth, rural nature and limited urbanization. Outside of a few urban pockets, Cardiff, Swansea, and Newport, the country is overwhelmingly rural. Rolling green hills, stone fences, winding lanes, and small market towns define much of the landscape. Unlike England, which developed around multiple major cities, London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool, Wales never built a dense network of urban centers. Cardiff, the capital, has just over 370,000 people. Swansea has around 300,000 in its metro area. Newport has even fewer. Beyond that, most Welsh settlements are villages or small towns with populations under 20,000. There's no Welsh equivalent to Glasgow in Scotland or Belfast in Northern Ireland, a large, dominant urban core that attracts nationwide migration and economic activity. Wales doesn't offer the same gravitational pull that cities elsewhere do. Without dense job markets, diverse industries, or major transport hubs, young professionals, university graduates, and businesses tend to look elsewhere. For many who live in these rural communities, life is peaceful and deeply rooted. But for those seeking opportunity, ambition, or access, the geography of scattered towns and isolated valleys can feel like a dead end. This lack of urban magnetism means fewer immigrants settle in Wales, fewer international businesses open offices there, and fewer people see it as a long-term home for growth. 5. Infrastructure and connectivity. While the beauty of the land makes for stunning road trips, it also makes infrastructure a constant challenge and a quiet force behind the country's low population density. Unlike much of England, Wales lacks a dense and well-integrated transportation network. There is no cross-country motorway linking north and south. Instead, travel between major regions often requires passing through England. For example, the fastest route between North Wales and South Wales, two parts of the same country, often involves leaving it altogether and driving through places like Shrewsbury or Hereford. Even within Wales, winding roads, narrow passes, and steep terrain can turn short distances into long journeys. Rail connectivity isn't much better. While the South has a relatively functional rail system connecting Cardiff, Newport, and Swansea to England, the rest of the country is much more fragmented. In many rural areas, trains are infrequent or non-existent. Entire regions like Mid-Wales rely almost entirely on car travel, with limited public transport options. Bus routes are often slow, sparse, and cut back further during periods of austerity or budget tightening. In a 21st century economy, broadband and mobile connectivity can be just as important as highways, and here again, rural Wales falls behind. Broadband speeds in many valleys and coastal areas remain frustratingly low, and mobile coverage is often patchy, especially in mountainous terrain. For residents trying to work remotely, run businesses, or even access online education, this creates a serious disadvantage. 6. Property and tourism pressure. Over the last few decades, parts of Wales, especially along the coast and in scenic national parks, have become magnets for tourism, retirees, and second home buyers. The result? A quiet but growing pressure that's reshaping rural communities and pushing longtime residents out. Take towns like Aberdaron, Abersoch, or Tenby, once small fishing villages or farming communities, now transformed into seasonal destinations filled with holiday cottages and luxury rentals. In these places, it's not uncommon for half the homes to sit empty for much of the year. For local families, especially young people, the housing market has become nearly inaccessible. Prices are driven up not by local wages, which tend to be lower than the UK average, but by outside demand from wealthier buyers, often from London or the English Midlands. This leads to hollowing out of communities. Schools close for the lack of children. Shops turn into souvenir stores. Local services shrink or disappear entirely because the year-round population simply isn't large enough to sustain them. And while tourism brings money, it also brings instability, seasonal work, surging rents in summer, and jobs that rarely offer long-term security. Beauty may attract visitors, but it doesn't always protect communities. So, with all that we've covered, the rain, the rugged mountains, the aging towns, the slow trains, the second homes, and the echoes of lost industry, you might be wondering, Why do some people still move to Wales? Why trade fast cities for quiet valleys? Why choose a place where the sky is often gray and the roads went slower than the internet? The answer isn't found in convenience. As remote work became more common, especially after COVID-19, more people began looking for lifestyle moves, relocating to places with natural beauty and a slower pace. Wales, with its low density and postcard scenery, became a target. Some people moved to Wales not to escape the world, but to find something it's lost: a sense of belonging, a slower rhythm, a tighter-knit village. A place where you wake up to hills, not high-rises. For writers, artists, families, and even those simply seeking peace. Wales offers not just space, but soul.